Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking classics. I feel like this video is going to be short and sweet, but I just really wanted to talk about classics and basically give some advice on where to start if you've only read a couple and you're looking to expand reading into more classics, or maybe you are a complete beginner and you've never read a classic before because you find them very intimidating. And I've been there and I know a lot of people have as well, so I just want to give some advice on places that you could start where you can actually start enjoying classics and not just reading the ones that maybe you've been forced to in school or by your parents or whoever in your life is forcing you to read classics. Because classics can offer so much, even though they can be quite intimidating to get into. They are one of my favourite things to read, but even sometimes I need a little bit of encouragement to get there. But I do think that they're just so rewarding, and once you do find your groove and what you like with classic books, then I feel like so many of the ones that you read are going to just become your all-time favourites, because things do become classic for a reason for the most part. I do not think that you should only read classics or that all classics are good, but I'm going to recommend you some today that are definitely very good, but also recommend you a way to get into reading them if you've never done it before. I know that I'm not the first to make a video about trying to get into classics, and I've seen a lot of these videos myself, and I think a lot of the advice is either that you should start with reading short classics that you can maybe read in a day or in a couple of days, or start with classics that are kind of more easy reading and then work your way up to the more dense ones. And I do think that that is all still very good advice. But to me, even if you're reading a book that's only 200 pages, if you're not enjoying that book, it's still going to take you like a week or 2 weeks to read, because you just won't be picking it up to read it. So sometimes the length of a book doesn't matter as much as finding the book that actually really fits with your own preferences. So my recommendation is to do a little bit of research and really think about what types of books that you already like. Is there a period or a place that you're already very interested in? Maybe you're interested in the French Revolution or ancient Greece or the Victorian era in England. If you're already interested in that, then you can find classics that are set then or written in that time, and you've kind of already got an in and you'll already be interested when you start reading these books. And also you should start thinking about what kinds of themes really interest you. If you are interested in history in general, then you're going to have a plethora to choose from. But maybe you're particularly interested in a philosophy or a movement that's happened in time, a political movement or a philosophy, and you want to kind of go back to that source material and read classics that are based around that idea. Also, you should really do some thinking on what style you like, because if you've already read a lot of books in that style, they might be referring back to the classics of that genre or of that style, and you can go back and read that source material of when it first came about. So that's my general advice for how to get into classics and maybe find some of the books that will work for you best, and only you know what's going to work best for you if you kind of answer these questions. But essentially, do not force yourself to read something that you know that you will not like, because then you will just never pick up another classic book ever. But let's get on to my recommendations. So I have a few different recommendations. All of these are absolutely excellent, but I'm going to be recommending them based on other things that you may already know that you like, whether that's a genre or a political movement or a style. So I think let's just jump right in, and I'm going to start with actually some of the first classics that I ever read, because I already knew that I liked romantic books and I like funny books. And so when I started reading classics, I read Jane Austen. Jane Austen is the queen for so many different reasons, but if you love rom-coms, romantic comedies, romances in general, then definitely you do have to just at least try Jane Austen once. All of her books are so beautifully and cleverly written. They focus on social relationships and class and romance and family. They are just also so very witty. So these are some of my favorites here. If I did have to pick a favorite, I would say it is Emma, because I just love a initially very difficult main character that then you kind of learn to love as she changes and grows. But obviously we also have the classic Pride and Prejudice. If you already love the movie, then you should definitely try and read the source material, because it is just everything you already love from the adaptions but more. So don't be afraid and just go for it. And then if you love sister relationships and talking about sibling dynamics, then definitely try Sense and Sensibility, which is all about two sisters, one who embodies sense and one who has very very lofty romantic sensibilities. Wherever you start with Jane Austen, you're not going to go wrong. They're all absolutely excellent books, and it's where I personally started reading classics when I was about 12, and I've read a lot of her books since then, and I've read them many, many times. And they're something I will always go back to. If romance isn't really your thing though, and you mainly read crime or thriller or mystery books, then you definitely need to check out the Queen of Crime, Agatha Christie. Even if you read every mystery and crime book under the sun, she will manage to surprise you, and she is the one who did it first and the one who did it best. As in, she's not the first person who ever wrote crime, but a lot of the trappings and tropes that we see in the mystery crime genre originally came from Agatha Christie. They are so much fun. I often read these with my friend Alice. We both read them together and we try and figure out the mystery, and it is an absolute whale of a time. And I actually have a vlog coming up very soon where over the course of 24 hours we try to figure out an Agatha Christie murder. So if that sounds interesting to you, then make sure you're subscribed to see that video when it comes out. Also, if you do start getting into Agatha Christie, she has about 70 different books, so you're going to have a lot of material to go through. Although personally for me, I do prefer some of her earlier works than some of the later ones. So if you're looking at where to start, just start with her most famous ones. Even if you've seen the movie or an adaptation of an Agatha Christie, I still think the way that she writes and the way that the mysteries unfold is always so clever and so surprising. Also, these are very much easy reads. These are not difficult classics. So for me, I just think they're a great place to start getting into that realm. My next recommendation is for people who are very deep into horror, or maybe specifically vampires. I know vampires and werewolves and a lot of supernatural fiction is incredibly popular at the moment and for the last few years, and I've read a lot of it myself and absolutely loved it, but you really cannot go wrong with going back to the original and reading Dracula. This is my absolutely stunning copy of Dracula that I adore and will get out at any opportunity, but this is the copy that I actually read. I think that you would be so surprised if you went back and read Dracula about how the original story actually plays out. Although it is a horror book technically, and there are parts of it that are very horrifying, a lot of this book is really about subverting kind of social expectations and crossing lines, and especially at the time in terms of sexuality and relationships and belonging and greed and consumption. And there's so much packed in this. Undoubtedly it is a horror book, but also it's very funny because at the center of it, it's just a group of people who love each other very much in all different ways and different ways that you can interpret, but they love each other very much and they are just trying to fight against a great evil. You should absolutely read Dracula. It's contributed so much to supernatural and our understanding about the myths of vampires, and I just think go and read the source material. It's incredible. So if you're not into straight horror, but you still like the gothic aspects, then I would really recommend Wuthering Heights. Once again, this is my pretty copy, and this is the copy that I actually read. I often have two copies of my favourite books because I want one to read and one to display. I have a problem, okay? While Wuthering Heights is often described as a romantic book, I would actually say it's a lot more gothic dramatic, and honestly I think it remains one of the most original, like unique books that I've ever read, even though it was written so long ago. This book tells the story of Cathy and Heathcliff. Heathcliff was an orphan boy that Cathy's father brought to live in her family home, and it tells the story of them growing up and how this deep relationship really shapes the rest of their life. I've been yapping too much, so my memory's full, so I will just wrap up to say, if you like gothic, dark, tragic love stories, then definitely pick up Wuthering Heights. Changing it up slightly, after I personally went through and read all of Jane Austen's works, the next kind of classics genre that I explored is actually dystopia, because I loved young adult dystopia, and then I discovered the dystopian genre in general and really wanted to go back and look at some of these classics, and I would highly recommend them if you do like dystopia. So the three books that I'd recommend if this is a genre that you enjoy as well are 1984, Brave New World, and also The Day of the Triffids. And I realised I don't physically own any of these books, which is like a severe lack in my home library, because I read them so many years ago and I have read them since and really loved them. I still love reading dystopia now, but this is why reading classics is so much fun, because you can really go back and learn about where this genre began and how it's evolved. 1984 and also Brave New World are quite similar, actually. I would say sometimes I used to get them very confused in my head, but they are both imagining a future world in which we are being heavily controlled. In 1984, it is by this big brother government that wants to limit any kind of freedom of speech, of expression, of movement, and even of thought. In Brave New World, it is imagining a far future world in which we are incredibly technologically advanced, but also controlled by a caste system that's based on intelligence. But if you prefer more post-apocalyptic sci-fi reads, then you should check out The Day of the Triffids and also The War of the Worlds. The Day of the Triffids, I don't own a copy, but I read it so many years ago, is basically there is a huge meteor shower that blinds everyone on Earth, and then these ginormous plants start killing people. And it's pretty fun. And then The War of the Worlds is basically a classic of kind of first contact alien invasion type story. This one I think that you might only enjoy if you're really into that as a genre. For me, I did find this, I think, just a bit slow paced, because I have realised out of this type of genre I do prefer the newer books, but it's still very interesting to read this as a classic and see kind of where a lot of our ideas about alien invasion and apocalyptic kind of world-ending alien invasion events, like where that one of the original stories for like how that actually came about. So, and this is also just an absolutely stunning collection of short stories by H.G. Wells. If you are instead really into literary fiction, maybe you're really into books that explore feminism and LGBT ideas and kind of have a very stylistic quality, then I do have an author recommendation for you, and it is Virginia Woolf. So Virginia Woolf wrote Mrs. Dalloway, which is a novel, and this is all written as a stream of consciousness, and you are following Clarissa Dalloway over the course of one day. It's such an interesting book for so many reasons, stylistically and also the themes it's exploring. You are following this woman who is a socialite, but as you follow her throughout the day, you just understand just quite how much is constantly going on in her head, pulling her in different directions. But if you prefer something shorter, then there is also A Room of One's Own, and also in this edition we also have The Three Guineas. But these are Virginia Woolf's classic essays, and they are classics of feminist literature for a reason. In the essays, she is arguing for women's intellectual freedom. In A Room of One's Own, she's exploring the idea about the limitations that's put on women and talking about all of the accomplishments of celebrated women writers, but referring a lot to some of the other authors I've already mentioned in this video. But the reason I really like these essays is because of just how Virginia Woolf writes. She has this really like chatty feel almost. The essays are written as addressing a group of young women, like at a university as a talk, and the way that she argues is just so intelligent and also I feel like so far ahead of her time. So Litfit girlies, get to know Virginia Woolf. And finally, let's just end off with, if you are a little bit scared and maybe you don't fit into any of the categories or any of the genres that I've previously mentioned and you're not sure where to start with classics, I would highly recommend reading classics of children literature. So here I have Anne of Green Gables and also The Secret Garden. I absolutely adore both of these books. They are so sweet, so wholesome, so heartwarming, and they're both classics for a good reason, because both of them I think talk about the transformative power of love, and that's just one of the things that I absolutely love reading about. They're both funny and sweet, and they really also celebrate nature and the natural world, and they're both beautifully written. So this is somewhere else I would recommend you to start if you're scared of classics. So I think that is all my recommendations and all of my advice. I would love to know what you thought of the way that I would approach classics as someone if I was brand new to it, and let me know if you have read any of these books that I have talked about, or if you have any other recommendations, then please leave them in the comments. I think that is all from me today, so thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and go and watch all of my other videos, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!